Hi, good morning to everyone. So let's begin our session now. Okay. So as part of our yesterday session, we started understanding more about HTTP status codes, or we used to call it as a response status codes also. So why we used to call it as a response status codes? We don't have any request status codes, guys. We have only response status codes. So why we used to call it as a response status code means simply that status code will represent outcome of the request in different scenarios. So that means whenever we are sending a request, so that request may execute successfully or may not execute successfully, or that request may contain some invalid data, or that request contain some good data but it is not able to process it by server. So different use cases, different scenarios we will have in our real time applications. So to represent all these request scenarios, we do have status codes. So that means the status code will represent always the outcome of the request. So what status code will do in this, what status code is going to represent in this case is outcome of the request. That means the moment client sent a request, then what happened at server side, whether it is processed or not, if processed, what is the overall status of that request. Okay, if it is not processed, why it is not processed? To represent all these scenarios as we will have a status codes. So response is all about business data, the body. Here, the status code is all about representing on a overall what's happened. So that is how the status codes are going to be used in every REST API implementation. So we have to see, we have to use always this status codes while implementing the REST APIs. Okay, and these are all represented as part of the HTTP protocol. That's why we used to call it as a HTTP status codes. Okay, fine. And now HTTP protocol categorized these status codes into total 5 categories. One is informational. So it's very rare case we will get to use this status codes in our API development. Very rare case. So it's all about not providing the actual response to the client. So whenever client sent a request, if you observe here, whenever client sent a request, so server will give response back to the client, but not actual body. So it will give like something, okay, it is going to take some longer time. Do you want me to continue? So you want to continue like that. So it will give some, okay, information back to client. Now client will confirm that information. Okay, let's proceed like that. So that means then server will start taking the execution of that request, and after some time it will provide the response. That is how things will happen. And second scenario is 101 is switching protocol. So sometimes what will happen, we are using HTTP application, but internally HTTP application is communicating with SMTP application. So that means we send request to our HTTP application, but internally HTTP application maybe assume it is okay connecting to the some other protocol application like SMTP application or FTP application, whatever it is. Then in such cases also it will give information back to the client. Okay, so if you want to give information back like, okay, do you want me to switch to one protocol to another protocol, like that, it is just passing an information back to client again. So that now client will say like, okay, client will agree for that. That means client application, client means it's not human being. It's all about application point of view. So now client will accept it or click on, I mean, client will say like, okay, or whatever it is. Then it will start, okay, switching from one protocol to another protocol. So if you have those kind of requirements, then you have to utilize this status codes as a response level. Now, apart from that, the most important series is 200 series. It's all called as successful series. That means the request is processed successfully. The request was received successfully and processed successfully by server application. So in such case, in such case, what the scenario I'm trying to say it is, client sent a request, data is all good, all the data is good. Now server accepted that request and server processed that request and execution also completed successfully. In such scenario, we have to use 200 series. Now, even though request is a successful, but sometimes we will have some internal use cases like, okay, For example, whenever we created user account, what will happen? For the first time you give an email ID, your account will be created. So for the second time, if you are doing same sign up operation with same information again, what will happen? If you observe our real time application, they will say like your email ID is already existed, something like that will get response. That means in the second time, your account is not created. The second time, whenever we sent a request with same information, your request executed successfully. Your data is validated in the database. Like this email ID is already existed or not like that. So server find like that email ID is already existed, server application. Then it is giving response like, sorry, your email ID is already existed. So at that time, in the DB perspective, your account is not created. So your account is not created. That means a new record is not being inserted. A new resource is not created. Why? A simple validation happened, found like you are already existed. So that's why you are not being added again. Only you are added already first time. So that means in that case, request executed successfully, but not resource created. But not resource is not created. So then we have to utilize 200 OK. So 200 OK itself success. That means there is no execution issues. Everything request received by server application executed that without any errors, any exceptions, everything is good. But only thing is at the end a resource created or not created. So that's why 200 OK. But for the first time when you send the information, your account got created, right? So that means then you are returning status code as 201 created. So that means what you are representing is your data is good, your data is processed, and the validations time we found your email ID is not existed. So that's why we are creating an account like that. We are implementing the logic. We implemented yesterday all this logic. So right, yeah. If you go here, so now in this case, user created successfully means 201 created. The moment you found email ID already existed, 200 OK. Why? In this case, you are making save operation, nothing but insert operation. Nothing but a record is inserted into DB. A new user is added to the database. A new user account got created. But in this case, not created anything. But request successfully executed. Finally, you are saying like, sorry, man, email ID is already existed like that. You are giving 200 OK. So that kind of scenarios we will use 200 series, 200 OK, 201 created like that. And when it comes to 202 accepted, even we taken yesterday all these things. See, what accepted is saying is the request has been accepted for processing, but the processing has not been completed. The request might or might not be eventually acted upon. This may disallowed when processing occurs. So what it is saying is, you just understand. I mean, I explained yesterday this one also. What it is it was saying like client sent client sent a request. Yeah, client sent a request to server application. It's a request. Sorry. Yeah, client sent a request. Now that request is accepted by server application. Accepted. But not immediately. So for example, you observed or not, sometimes what will happen? You will create some Swiggy orders or whatever it is, right? Sometimes you will not get response immediately. They will give you a message like, okay, we are taking your information, we'll get back to you. Like that, they will give you generic information. After 5 minutes or 2 minutes, you will get a notification like, yes, your data is good. Everything is created, something like that. If something is wrong, you will get a notification like something or mail or whatever it is. Something is wrong. We can't proceed further. Try again like that. You will get a response. That means instant response is not happening. So that means the moment client sent a request, server is accepting it. First of all, it is making a basic validation. Everything is good. It is accepted. It is accepted. So that's in the scenarios 202. And after that, what you are giving response back to the client application is, yes, I'm accepted. So that means the status code you are giving as a 202 as accepted. So that means you are telling to the client application is your data I have accepted, your request data, I am processing it. After some time, anything can happen. That means after my validations point of view, if everything is good, I'll proceed further. If something is bad, I'll let you know. Like that, server application just giving accepted status. But you have to understand here, there is no response being provided immediately. Not providing actual response, guys. Not providing actual response of request. Please understand. If it is providing immediately actual response, then it will comes under with 200 OK or 201. If it okay 200 OK or 201 created. If it is really immediately giving the real response. Here in this case, it's not giving the real response. Okay, you given the data, right? I accepted it. Wait for some time. I'll give you the result later. Like that. So if you got that kind of requirements, you have to give an acknowledgement to the client like, okay, I accepted your data. Take care of other work. I'll take care of, I will update later or something like that. You have to send the status code. So that means now assume here client server. When client received when client received 200 OK response from the server application, means what client will understand, okay, my request is executed successfully and something, no resource created. So that means the actual request, you got the actual response also, you got response also. That is all. If you got 200 OK, 201 created, means that is the meaning of it is you got the actual response, your request is fulfilled, you got the actual response as well as a resource is created. Similarly, when you got 201, 202 means what? No response. You are getting only as accepted. That means the actual request is not fulfilled. The actual request is not yet fulfilled. So that is how client will understand based on all these status codes. Now tomorrow server application giving 400 like that bad request. Then what client has to understand in this case? What client application has to understand in this case is, okay, what server is saying in this case? Your request is a bad request. That means now client application has to verify why it is a bad request. What data is missing? What property is missing? What reason it became as a bad request? So that means the problem from client side, the mistake, there is a problem from client side. Problem from client side. Pointing finger to client side. That is all. So client side mistakes. Client side means client side application. That is what you have to understand. So then server is ready to process our request, but you are not given the valid data. You are not given the valid data. So that's why the server is saying like, you are giving bad data to me. I can't process like that. It is giving 400 status. Then by seeing 400 status, you have to represent always as an error. 200 OK means success. 201 is success as well as a new resource is created. 202 is also partially success, but only thing is your request is accepted partially. Actual outcome of your request will be notified later. But in this case, first of all, your request itself not accepted. Why? Because you sent a bad data. I expected email in this format, okay, in the email format, but you sent like this. That means whose mistake it is? Client mistake. I am expecting post request from you, but you are sending a get request. Client sent a get request. So whose mistake it is? Client mistake. So in that scenario, client server will say like bad request. Like that. So that is what 400 series is. 400 series, client errors. Now if you observe, completely opposite to 400 series, 500 series is there. Server error. So what is the meaning of it is, see here, the server failed to fulfill an apparently valid request. We'll come back to that. First, let's take a program for this. I mean, how we are going to represent the status codes as part of our request and response. Let's try to understand one by one. Okay. So first what we will do, we will go with 200 series and we will represent 200 OK, 201 created. How I am writing or how we are returning based on the requirement point of view, this custom status codes. Let's see here. Okay. First of all, Okay, this is what scenario we are implementing now. So what I said, oh, where it went? Sorry, it is got closed. Yeah, here. So what I mentioned here, the moment client sent a request, everything validation is also good. Okay, so that means it's a good request. And then what you are doing in the service layer, we are checking the user is already existed or not. If existed, then we are not making any save operation, nothing but no insertion. And you are saying like, sorry, your email ID is existed. But request is a good request processed, executed, everything is good. Only thing is email ID is already existed. That's why we are saying like, you're okay, we are not creating an account because already email ID is already existed like that. So that means 200, okay, I have to return with that response. If a new email ID provided or okay, then I have to make the insertion and I have to give response like 201 created. So how to represent these two status codes in a single REST API? Let's try to understand. Okay. Okay. So let's take this is the REST API we are using from yesterday onwards, right? Okay. So now what I said yesterday is to represent. Okay. So that means here what we have custom status codes. We have custom status codes. Okay. We have to bind with response. Bind with the response. If custom status code binding with the response, that means what's happening? If you go here, start this application. Yeah, I'm just starting the application. See here, go to user. Here is create user. No. Okay, let's open the Swagger. Nothing. Yeah, Swagger from Swagger you can do the quick testing. So try it out and see here. Okay, let's take from Postman. It will be very clear then. New HTTP body JSON. Okay, I have payload structure and it is a post request and URL is okay. I can get from here. This is the URL. Okay. So see here now. I'm giving something like Dilip at the rate gmail.com. So we made the email ID as a unique point of view in this case. Mobile number. Okay, so password I'll give like Dilip something and the age also I'll give 30 and city Hyderabad, gender male, qualification PG and country India. Okay. So by default, what's happening? If user created, email ID is already existed. But in this case, we have to return 200. Okay. So that means okay, it's good now. So our expectation point of view, email ID is already existed, nothing but an account is not created. If you observe the DB also, if you're not seeing any insert query, nothing but what happened, no insertion happened. So that means 200 okay is good. But if account got created, then 201, right? So now I'm giving Dilip Singh 123 email ID. So now let's send the request. Now what happened? User created successfully. That means we have to return 201, 201 status code. But we are still by default getting what? 200 okay. That means by default status in successful scenario is 200 okay. But as per our REST API guidelines says, when account got created, when account got created, a new resource is inserted, then you have to write, you have to return 201 created. So that means tomorrow you are adding a product based on a product ID. It's added. That means 201 created status code. While you are adding, it's not added. That means assume some internally it's already existed or whatever it is. The ultimately a new record is not added. Okay, not added. Then 200. Okay. That is how you have to customize the response. But how to customize it? See here. Yeah. So to do this, so that means what? 201 I have to add when account got created. 200 okay when account is not created, right? So how to bind this status codes? Here it is by using a class called as response entity. So Spring Boot provided or Spring provided a class called as response entity. It's a class. So this class is used to bind, bind, sorry. This class is used to bind what? What exactly we have to bind? See, this is body, guys. That means whatever you are seeing, this section will be called as body section. Whatever you are seeing, this section is called as status codes. Whatever you are seeing, this section called as headers. So you know what, you don't know what is headers. Maybe you should have know this by this time in the servlets level, but still okay. After this, we will start headers only. So this section is called as headers. So that means whenever client sent a request to server application, once the server is processed, so server will always return three things. One is body. Second one is headers. Okay, headers. And third one is status code. These three always server application will returns back to the client once your request is processed. So body, how to return the body, we know that. Simply we are giving always that return type here that comes under the body. That is the actual real response body, like user account created, user not existed, like that. Or you are loading any product information, then you are seeing the JSON payload as a list of objects, all these things. That's a body. So that means we know how to return the body. And headers, we are not sure as of now. We will come back to that. But here, default status code is always returning. But right now, at least we are dealing with the status codes, right? So in this case, this class is used to bind body, head, okay, status code and headers together. Together. Simple, guys. By using this class, what you are doing is you are using your custom status codes and you are sending that body along with custom status codes. And if you have any headers also, that is also we can bind as a single object. Single object. That is how this class is being used. This class is being used. Okay, so how to use it? How to use it? Let's understand here it is. How to use this class? Let's try to understand. Okay, come back to the example. Okay, here what you are returning? See, the method return type always becomes whatever the method return type you are returning, right? That is always becomes your response entity, your response. So whatever you are returning from here, it is always response. But as of now, we are returning what? Only string object. Only string object. So that means the string data going back and internally it is sending a 200 OK also, that is displaying. Now we are taking help of response entity, right? So here at method return type level, your endpoint method return type level, you have to define the response entity. So that means at method, at endpoint or handler mapping method, return type level, we have to define this response entity. Response entity. So that means here I am going to take response entity. Yeah, this is the response entity. So what it is saying is, okay, so I already given the definition. So if you observe here, it is expecting a generic type. So what is a generic type? You know that. You understood already in the core Java collections framework level. So that means what is your actual response body type? What is your actual response body type? In this case, what is my actual response body type? String. This is the string value. So tomorrow, I mean, if you are working with other APIs also, we will see list of student object or user object like that. Okay, let's take like this. I'm creating one more REST service. Get user info public. So here I'll take like user. Okay, user profile detail or something. I'm implementing one more response, one more REST service, user profile, so that I can demonstrate easily. Get user info. So based on a email ID point of. So that means it's a get mapping. So I'll use get mapping followed by path. I'll use slash user slash email ID point of view and at the rate path variable. So string email ID and return. So service user service dot get user by email ID and I'm passing that email ID to service layer. Oh, it's already have a lot of methods. Okay, fine. But anyway, but okay. So if you see here, already I think we are already have a method. It's all just like get user by email ID. We are already have a method in the service class and I'm changing it to user information. Okay. So now in this case, what is your response type? User information. User information is the object. That is your response type. In previous case, the response what you're returning is actual response in the string format. String format. So that means I'll write one more REST service also. Get all load all users. Okay, so this is all users. We have any method? Get users by email ID. Yeah, load all users. We already have it. Okay, return type is list of user information. So in this case, what is our response body? The actual response body is list of user objects. List of user objects. Single user object. In this case, string. Right? In this case, string. So that means the moment wherever I return response entity here, now if I'm using response entity going further with this API level also, what I have to provide here it is what exactly the real object you are returning as a response that you have to represent here. We have to represent here. We have to represent here. So that means now what will happen in this case is, in this case, it will become like this. We'll come back to this REST API and we'll change it. So this will become like this. So now in such a way, what is my actual response in this case is string. So I'm returning response entity of string. Response entity of string. So that means how to create. So we have to create the response entity object now. Create the response entity object. Response entity. So what response entity you are taking? String data. So here string, right? And response equal to new response entity. Like that you can create the object. Or you have some predefined methods here itself, static methods and all. Instead of doing all these things, Okay, see here what it is saying. If you observe here, there is no default constructor. It is saying like you have any HTTP status code, return it. Along with HTTP status code, you have any body. I can show you like this. Yeah, if you observe here, constructor level, this time what we have to return, guys? Body plus status code. We have body plus status code. As of now, we don't have headers. Okay. So when comes headers, we will send headers also as part of response entity. As of now, body plus status code. So if you observe here, status code you can pass whatever you want. Body comma status code. Yes, this is what I want. Now in this case, what is my body? This is the body. This is the body or message, whatever it is. This is the actual message. Okay, user created successfully, email ID already existed. That is the real response body. So that means message. Now what is the second parameter you saw with respect to this predefined constructor? Status code. So to represent the status code, again here Spring Boot provided, okay, again Spring Boot provided an enum called as HTTP status codes. An enum HTTP status code. It's a enum, guys. It's a enum. So by using this enum, you can return that values. So see here, HTTP status code. I think it's not an enum. Okay, you have enum also somewhere else. Okay, you can take interface, no problem. Interface and value of the created. Yeah, interface value of what? 200 and 201. But at what time you have to return 200 and 201? So for example, if I return 200, again it is by default 200 only. So if I am returning response, yeah, I am returning response here. Yeah, if you observe this REST service, finally what we did, guys, the earlier what we defined string, we are binded along with the response entity. And we created a response entity object like new response entity, and we are passing the actual body and as well as status code. As well as status code. Okay, fine. Let's send the request now. What happened? User email ID already existed 201, 200. Okay, that's expected. The moment if I given something new also, like if I given Suman or whatever it is, user created successfully, but still it is returning 200. Okay. Why? We are returning only 200. Okay. Where is 201? We are not written, right? So that means what you can do, if something, whatever it is, I'll write like this, message equal to created else, like that. If so, it's all again Java point of view, core Java point of view. Or you can directly return also, whatever it is, core Java skills. So now what I will do, go to service layer. What I will do is I'll return here created. Message dot equals ignore case, whatever it is, created. Okay, 201 here. It is what? 201. HTTP status code. So HTTP status code is a interface. They given interface here, I think not an enum. Somewhere I saw some other thing also we have as an enum. I'll come back to that. An interface called as this HTTP status codes. So here what you are returning. Now observe the thing. You modified your REST API as The moment you got response from the service layer, if you got as a created, nothing but user account is created, then you are returning 201 along with the message. Okay, or you can customize the message here. Could you try again? Okay, you can write like user account created successfully. User account created successfully. In this case, the message point of view, if it is not created means what you will get generally this message. If it is created, I just taken a word and I elaborated here like user account created successfully and 201. If not created, 200. If not created, 200. Now let's send the request again. Send the request. Now see, Suman is already existed in the DB, right? Just before we created the account, right? See 200, 200, okay. Now if I give an email ID, something like again Naresh or whatever it is, what will happen? User account created successfully. You got the body, right? Along with the custom status code 201 created. 201 created. Now you can ask one question, sir, why we have to do this segregation? 200 okay, 201 created. What is the real use of it is? See, the automation will happen from the client side, guys. So assume now front end point of view, think front end point of view. See, whenever I given a meaning, I mean, I given a requirement to the front end team like this. If user account created, display in green color, message in the green color. Okay, so something like that I mentioned. And I'm just giving you a small head thing, that's all. If user account not created, like email ID is already existed, something like that. If user created, display that message in some amber color. Okay, so something like uh, gray, orange color or whatever it is. So that means what you understood. Now, this is the requirement front end team is having, client application. Now, whenever I send to 200, in the front end side, they can implement logic very easily, right? The moment if 200, I mean, assume now front end team level in the Angular JS or React JS level, assume they written like this. HTTP status equal to 200, then message in the green color. Sorry, message in amber color like orange color. Else, or if it is else if it is 201 status code 201 then in the green color. So I mean it's not exactly about only front end point of view. See, that is what by using the status codes you can easily recognize in the server side level your resource got created or not. Even though by without seeing the body, by seeing the status codes, now I'm saying like resource created. A new user is added. A new user is added. So this is how you are going to make the custom status codes. You have to utilize response entity class in this case. So now can you guess and tell me, I'll give you a requirement and what do I need to use response entity in this case or not? You have to tell me. For example, sometimes what will happen, requirement point of view, implement an API where for creating for adding a product information. And I mentioned I don't want any status codes. I don't want any status codes. Okay, no, not that much important. I mean, not important of status codes. I mentioned like that, or I mentioned as written as a 200 okay only. 200 okay in success scenario. That's all. That means I don't want any custom scenario, any custom codes and all. Then response entity is required. No, because by default The status itself 200, okay. That means not required in this case. Not required. Why? Without response entity, what you can do? You will return directly a message like string, return type. Return type of that endpoint will become directly string. If you want response entity, with response entity, so that means with response entity, by any chance you want to add a custom header or any custom status code, then so you want to add status code, right? Status code plus body point of view. Status code plus body point of view. You have to define return type as a response entity of string. So that means generally whatever the type it is that you have to define here it is the moment. Tomorrow if you have headers also, your API implementation is demanding you have to send custom status codes or custom headers or any headers going further, you have to utilize response entity. Your API is not demanding any custom headers, not custom status code. Default status code 200 is okay enough. Then you don't need to use of response entity like earlier REST services. So in this case, what? You are not using response entity. That means your product added successfully or it is already existed, whatever it is. Every time you are returning 200, okay. So that in such scenario, you don't need to use response entity. But as per REST API guidelines says, we have to make sure following proper status codes. It's recommended. So then you will call yourself, you can call it as a API developer. I mean, you are a ethical, I mean, you are just following the guidelines, standards and everything. Standard APIs. You are implementing a meaningful API, standard APIs. So no one can point your API like, hey man, what is this? Even though account got created, why you return 200? Okay. It should be 201 like that. So that is how we have to return the status codes. And to return the status codes, we have to take help of always response entity. Response entity. So now come back to second REST service. Can response entity class called as predefined class? That's what I mentioned, Venkatesh. Who given response entity? So if you see here, who given? That's what I said, right? Spring Boot provided response entity. Spring Boot provided means it is a predefined only. So Spring Boot provided response entity, predefined only. We are not created this Java class, right? It's provided by Spring only. That means it's a predefined only. Everything Spring only provided. Response entity class. If you see here package also. What is this package? Yeah, this one. org.springframework.htdp.response entity. So it's a predefined class from the Spring framework. Spring only given this. Okay, now let's come back to the next requirement. Next REST service. So now, as per this REST API, what is the concept? I'll provide an email ID and I want to see that user information. So that means what are the possible use cases in this case? What are the possible use cases? One, maybe user existed, then user info, right? Second one is user not existed, then I have to give message as email ID not found. This is what I have to do, right? Okay, cool. Now, whenever it is a user existed, user info means with respect to our response payload point of view, it is JSON only. That's okay. But in this case, what you are returning? Java object, nothing but Java object. What type of object? Class name, this one. So that means the data type is all about this one. But in this case, email ID not found is a simple message. That means data type is string. Data type is string. That message I have to pass like, sorry, email ID not found like that. Now, how will you deal with this scenario? Point number one. Point number two. In this case, the moment data found, what is the status code? Status code request executed successfully without any issues, and data also found for that user, status code will become 200. Okay, right? In this case, data not found, data type, body data type is string, that's okay. But what is the status code? As per REST API guidelines says, what is your status code is, yesterday I said 204 no content. If you go here, the server successfully processed the request and it is not returning any content, and it is not returning any content. So that means processed the request, but there is no data with that email ID. Nothing but that email ID is not found. Sometimes, even I used to confuse till today also. If you see here, I'll show you the status codes. 400 series also. Open the Wikipedia point of view. So come back to 400 series. 404 not found. See, this is what one thing you have to remember. 404 not found. Okay, what it is saying 404 not found point of view. It's a client mistake. The requested resource could not be found but may be available in the future. So now tell me, in this case, do I need to take 404 or 204 based on this meaning and this meaning? Yeah, 204 no content, or is it 404? So sometimes people will return 404, sometimes 204 guys. Okay. So in this case, what meaningful is 404 only? Why? Actually, server is ready to give everything, but client sent a invalid email. Invalid email ID means which is not existed in this scenario. In this scenario, yeah. In this scenario, if you given an email ID valid only, format is valid only, but that's not existed in the DB. That with that email ID, there is no account as of now. In future, maybe an account may be created with that email ID. So then you may get again a response back body. So right now that email ID is not found. That means what is the status code I can return? 400, 404 not found. That is what. Sometimes people will follow 204 also. Sometimes. Even if you want to differentiate between 404 versus 204, 204 versus 404 status code. Okay, if you see here, what most of the people are saying is 34, 71, 66. Okay, so see here, returning 404 signals that the resource doesn't exist, kind of saying that it isn't even possible to ask for the list of albums. Okay, it's very huge. Error code 404. The website hosting server will typically generate a 404 when web pages. See, that's what. Sometimes people will return 204, sometimes 404. You can also take one of them based on your requirement point of view at that time. So, my point of view, I'll feel always like 204 not found. The reason is why I will take 204 in this case is, see, generally, in this case, 204 I will return, no content. Why I will prefer this one is, assume I am sending a request like this, create user, right? So I am sending delete user. Now understand, send, what happened? 404 not found. Why? This API not existed. Slash delete user, REST API not created as of now. It's not about data. It's all about API service. This API itself not there. Then it is returning 404. Server is saying, hey, client, you sent a request to invalid URI, no static resource, slash delete user. That means if you observe here, do we have any delete user API? No. If you see here, slash delete slash user, we don't have anything with slash delete. We have with slash users email ID something, but slash delete user, we don't have anything. So that means API is not existed. But in this case, API is existed, but email ID server also processed your request successfully. It went until database level. DB level, your email ID is validated. But only thing is email ID not found. That's why you are not returning any content. That's why I can consider no 204 no content. So now, okay, finally we decided like 204 no content, right? Now how can we make this customization into this REST API? In earlier case, what happened? Slash user ID slash email ID point of view slash use, okay, user slash Dilip at the rate gmail.com, and then get request and the body, no body, right? So it's a get request. Path variable only you given. There is no body. Send it. Now what you got? You got all the Dilip information. If I given again Dilip 123, if that email ID found, no. So then what you got? 200, okay. But what I said, I want to return 204 in this scenario. Because with that email ID, there is no data as of now. If I given Suman, yes, it's there. So 200, okay. 200, okay, because you got the data. That means email ID existed, request executed successfully, body is there, and you are returning 200, okay. But in this case, if I given any Suman 123 with that email ID, there is no content. So in this case, 201 I have to return. Sorry, 204. What I have to do? Same thing, just take the response entity and just make this kind of customization. So what body it is in this case? User information. So that means add that to response entity level. Response entity of user information. Okay, cool. Now it is expecting return type always in the response entity format. Now create the response entity object again. Okay, I'll replace with a null. I'll replace it later. Okay, what is the return type? User information, right? When you are calling this service layer, you got like this. Okay, fine. And go here, what you implemented null, right? Yeah, good. Okay, so now see here how I am writing. If info equal to, if info not equal to null, that means data is existed. Because service layer level, same thing you return, right? Is present, data. Not presented, null. If email ID is not there, null. So that means if info is not equal to null, and else, or else. So what I have to do? If info not equal to null, return response entity of user information. See here, there are some static methods also available, guys, in this case. If you see here I created one way, here I created via new operator. Here I am creating response entity by using the methods of response entity predefined static methods point of view, builder design pattern. What is that I have? Okay, if I taken here, so if 200, okay, right? So if you see here, okay. See, it's up to your choice, guys. You can take HTTP status card of value of 200, okay, or you can utilize this approach also. It's a builder design pattern. In this case, these guys are using builder design pattern. What is a builder design pattern? Please explore it. It's a good thing also. Knowing the builder design pattern like singleton design pattern, factory design patterns, like that you have concept of design patterns. In interviews, they will ask you, what are the design patterns you know, like that. So in this case, these guys are following design pattern, builder design pattern, and they given some predefined methods. Here I created a response entity object via new, and then I passed constructor arguments. In this case, I am using methods, but it's up to your choice what you want to use based on your comfort. But I am showing both the options. Okay, fine. Dot. What is the next method? Body. What is the body you are passing? Info. Okay, so done. Yes. 200. Okay, body. Else or else return. Response entity. What we thought, no content, right? If there is no content, means what you have to do? No content. No content is the method. No content means HTTP status code value of 204. No content, and body is, you can return empty body, or you can just return build. See, this line is equal to this line, guys. I can write like this. It's all about null, and here writing 204. Yeah, this line is equal to this line is equal to this line. This is one way of writing the code. This is one way of writing the code. What option you will choose, you can choose. So similarly, this line is equal to, so don't say like, yes, sir, which format I have to take, means it's up to your choice. So in this case, OK, right? OK means 200. And body info. So I'm giving info like that. So this line is equal to this line. This line is, so here it is created constructor and argument values. Here directly I'm utilizing the that predefined static methods, OK method, all these things from the builder design pattern point of. Now let's send the request. Based on this, I'm fulfilling my request or not. Let's see. Okay, so restarted your application. Send it. Now see what happened. 204 no content. 204 no content. And you'll see there is no body. There is no body. Right? So, and if you given Suman 123, yes, that is there, right? So if you see here, yes, you got the body, that means email ID found, and as well as 200. Okay. Now what front end people will do based on these status codes? Simply they will write like, okay, if 200, okay, whenever they are calling this REST API from the front end perspective, yeah, whenever they are calling, I'll show you. So how they are utilizing the status codes in the front end, I'll show you. Okay, what they will do, same thing. If 200, okay, that means what content is there? That means content existed, right? So if they will write, if 200, okay, means they will immediately make a table format based on the requirement, table format, and they will display like email, number, all your info they will display. If they found 204, they got 204 as a status code, means they will display in a red color as email ID not found. Like that, they will display a message. Email ID not found, like that, they will display a message. So that is how status codes they will use. Even it makes a meaningful API also. Now go and verify this Swagger API, how it looks like. After adding the status codes, see response entity, you added here, right? If you observe, guys, what it is saying, it's 200, okay. Where I added right now. What is this REST service? I added right now. User slash email ID, right? Yeah. Yeah, this one. Okay. If you see here, 200, okay, like that. Okay. So this is how you have to use the response entity going further. Tomorrow, if you want to add any custom headers also, you can add headers by using response entity, but we will come back to headers topic after this. Okay, now let's come back to this requirement also. What it is requirement? Same thing, right? Load all users. In this case, tell me, maybe at least you know that one user will be existed always in the DB. Then you can write always 200. There is no data, right? You are not passing any email ID, something like that. Simply select star from table. So then if you feel like you want to return only 200 okay, then there is no need of response entity. Now let's come back to next one. Load users. Okay, 200 okay. Or you can write 204 no content also. Response entity of a list of users. So simply wrap that into response entity level. That's all you have to do. And after that, response entity of response entity of OK, and then body is whatever this provides, that is body. So it's all core Java skills, guys. You can't say like, sir, what you're writing under. So that means 200 okay. If everything is good. Or you can write if else conditions also in this case also. Okay, now what I will do, I'll come back to last service. See, delete mapping. This case also what? If email ID is found, deleted successfully 200 okay. Email ID found, deleted. Nothing but what? Deleted. Deleted means success. That means 200 okay. If email ID not found, I'm trying to delete an email ID suman123 at the gmail. It's not there, right? Not found. So that means then you have to say like 204 not found. Or you can write like 404 not found. That email ID not found, like that you can give the status code. That means you are telling to the client is your email ID what you provided is a wrong email ID. So with that there is no ID. That's why we are unable to delete any account. Like that you have to customize it. Then again what you have to do, response entity you have to take, and then you have to wrap that string inside this. And here again new response entity of that. You can take any status codes also, you can define. Okay, in this case, new is not required. So here you can write if else conditions. If email ID found and deleted, then return 200 okay. Else return 404 not found. This is what. Write if conditions here. And based on that, form the response body. So please make sure practicing all these examples like this. So I provided same thing in the materials also. So if you feel any difficulties and all, even I just provided same thing in the materials point of view also. So I just opened for you right now. So see here, you just find out all the information from here. I given very clearly what are the status codes. Even I am updating this material also. I'll upload updated one. I'll share it to you on the WhatsApp point of view. But it's already there. One small changes I'm doing nowadays. I'll add interview questions. I'm adding interview questions also topic wise. Once I'm done with that, I'll share this. I'll share updated what this material also with you. I'm adding it. It's work in progress. It will take another 2-3 weeks. So after that, I'll share you on WhatsApp. Don't worry. But this is all already existed. Whatever the PDF you are having, you are already have it. So then just take care of it. Remember the theory also because you have to answer in interviews, right? So what are the syntaxes? Okay, what theory you have to provide and what you have to provide, like that. See, different ways, different solutions you will have. So you can use response status like this when you want to. Okay, I'll cover this example also. But usually this is okay. See, the requirement is like this. Okay, I'll come back to that. Or let's complete first of all status codes. Okay, so with this we are done with 200 series, right? And 300 series, yeah, I'll cover this later, just after last example, as a last example. But anyway, why I've opened is that's what. Sometimes what will happen, few one or small things may be missed in the class, but it's already available in the material. So you can understand those things easily. So whatever it is, validator framework and all, I'm adding the, we are already completed. I'm adding to the material like that. So just go through it. It's just like meaningful point of view for theory understanding. Okay, now let's come back to the another series, 300 series. So 300 series, don't ignore, I mean ignore guys. Ignore means in a real time point of view, on a day-to-day base point of view, very rare case we will get it. But just try to understand what exactly it is. But I don't think we are going to get work every day, every time on this series. No. In my entire career, I never got work related to 300 series as well as 100 series also. I told you right yesterday, it's most about 200 series, 400 series, and one or two times 500 series. That's all. So that is all. But anyway, try to understand what they are trying to say in the 300 series. Redirection. What is the meaning of redirection? This class status code indicates that the client must take additional action to complete the request. So if you see here, guys, I'll show you one thing related to this. Have you observed any time, for example, assume like this, redirection point of view, I'm giving the details. Assume you are running a business on a website called as abc.com. Okay, cool. After 2 years or 3 years, someone told like, okay, I mean, you thought like you are changing your brand name from ABC to XYZ. XYZ. So then definitely what you will do, you will modify your URL also. Your application is not changing. So you're planning like you're creating same application with XYZ also. But the moment whenever you decided like xyz.com, it's not like you are going to delete immediately this URL also. Why? Because from last 2 years, so many customers are using it. Okay, millions of customers are using it. Then whatever the latest brand you got or whatever the latest domain you got from ABC to XYZ point of view, that two out of 2 million users, most of the people don't know that. So that means first of all, you have to make sure that, okay, even though users are sending request to abc.com, you should not delete it. Why? You have to make sure like this. As a customer, I don't know whether you change it to ABC, XYZ or not. I know only abc.com. So client, I sent request to this. Then what internally you have to do is this abc.com should redirect your request to xyz.com. So that means as a end user, as a client application point of view, the people who knows abc.com till today, they are using it and finally it is rerouting. Okay, people who knows xyz.com, they are also directly using it. They are also sending direct request to this. Okay, both the scenarios you have to make as part of your business. If you delete all of sudden abc.com, then what will happen? The customers don't know about your migration. Then you will lose a lot of customers. They will say like your website is not working. So that's why you observed or not, I remember this point. Okay, if you see here, uh, any one of you can answer this question. If you have general knowledge, what is that is? What is AI released by Google earlier, guys? I mean, AI means that similar to ChatGPT. Similar to ChatGPT, Google released one product. Can you tell me what is the name it is? Anybody knows? New is Gemini. I want old one. That's why I told you. Google Bard, yeah, something is there, right? Now, that means earlier they given like something google.bot.com. After 6 months or 7 months, I don't know what's happened in their business criteria, right? So they said one fine day, it's not bot nowadays, it's all Gemini. Gemini, okay? So they said they mentioned as it's all about Gemini. Some reason they don't like that name or whatever it is, they came up with a name called as something like Gemini or whatever it is. So that means even though if I am hitting this URL, if we am hitting this URL, it is rerouted to Gemini. Here I'll show you to that. See here, I have something product tools. See here what it is, bird. What is this? Bird.google.com. So that means what it is, bird. Yeah, this one I'm talking about. That's why you have to observe websites, guys. That's why I used to say every day, observe the real-time things what you are using on daily basis. See, these are all things when you are going to work as a real-time application. These are all things you have to take care. Bot.google.com, right? Now let's click on that. What happened? It is routed to where? Gemini. So it routed to, I entered this URL, but it is routed to Gemini. So that means that's what, why Google is not deleted this. They change it to the Gemini last year itself. Why they are not deleted it? Because that's what Dilip don't know this URL and all. I know when they launched Bird, Google Bird, I started using it. Now today also I'm using same URL. See, I bookmarked same URL. I bookmarked same URL. I'm clicking on that, it is automatically opening the Gemini. Right? It is automatically. So that is what redirected. So that means that's what comes under the that what redirection. I don't know whether I can see here or not. I'm just trying to get the knowledge. That's all. See, yeah, so yeah, good. See, this is what guys 301. So now understand what redirection they did. Bought google.com to Gemini google.com. What they are giving status code back to client. They are saying to the client means our Chrome browser, hey Dilip, you sent a request to bot.google.com, that's okay. But we are moving permanently. That means we are redirecting to the some other website called as gemini.google.com. So see how now you realize what is the importance of status codes. How should we know the status codes? If you don't know the status codes, what is the drawback or what is the problem you are going to face while attending the interview? See, a real time, the worldwide Google company itself making proper status codes and all. So they are clearly mentioned. See, bot.google.com 301. 300 series is talking about what? Redirection. See, moved permanently. This and all future requests should be directed to the given URI. So that means they are saying like you sent request to bot.google.com, but we are migrating, I mean, we are moving your request from bot.google.com to gemini.google.com. Now gemini.google.com 200, okay. 200, okay. See 204 no content. I think somewhere you can see 204. See no content. Something, whatever it is. I mean, I'm not showing like that. 204 no content. If you go to the response, see there is no content. Mostly 200 series. That's what I said. If you see here, most of the time 200 series. Even if you are asking any question also, why board is changed to Gemini. See here also the moment we are asking the questions and all 302 something, they are redirecting to somewhere else. See, internally they will have a lot of applications. They are redirecting, get redirecting to get some images, whatever it is. 200 series, 200 series, 200 series, 200 series. If you go here, okay, so that is how. the status codes are important. If you observe here, all these are status codes only 204, 200, 301. So you can realize now how important it is. 2024, the decision was made to better reflect Google's commitment to providing access to its most capable tools. Okay, anyway, so leave it. So that is how the status codes you have to remember and you have to use it. So that is how 300 series is very rare case. One or two times you will get very rare case point of view. Now let's moved permanently, not modified. These are all not required. You leave it. Yeah, 400 series is again the most important one. So what 400 series is saying, let's try to understand. Yeah, so what it is saying, the request contains bad syntax or cannot be fulfilled. That means what is the meaning of it is the class of status code, this status code is intended for situations in which our error seems to have been caused by client. Do one thing, I'll remove all this. Okay, I'll give you simple point of view. See here, and let's take the point here. It is, see, in general, what is the point of 400 series is? We already discussed it, but I'll give you one more time. Okay, so see here, what is the meaning of 400 series is? Most of the times, see, client and server. You created a REST API. So that means while I'm creating the REST API with respect to user sign up itself, we understood, right? So as part of our user sign up, what we designed, if you go here, request body level, we thought like email ID is a mandatory. We thought email ID is a mandatory. So that's why what I'm doing, not null, not blank, not null. Yeah, not empty, whatever it is, not empty, and then email format. So this validation I added, why it's a most important property for me. And similarly, this is also name is also important property for me. So that means what is the point here? It is this email ID, name, as well as password. Yeah, these three properties I made mandatory properties. Now, server application point of view, what I am doing, I am validating the request body. So I am validating the request body. I am validating the request body like this. So that means what will happen if client sent a request, whenever client sending a request, let's go to create user. Do we have create user? Delete user. Yeah, create user. Okay, here. Body. Yeah, I have here. Okay, see here. Now, understand. Client sending a request to server application. Okay, cool. Now, client sending name, email ID, password, mandatory fields they are submitting. And email ID also in the email ID format it is going. So that's why, okay, see here. After that account is created or not, that's the next step. Step number one is client given all the required information or not. Yes, given. So that's why this request is a good request. This is a good request. So validations are passed. That means client given good data. Client given a good data. That's why after that server application accepted the request. So that means in this case what happening? The client the moment sending the request, So client followed all the rules and regulations, and client given a request including the body point of view, server application. Now server started before accepting it, before accepting, it started validation. What validation? You sent proper, see, it is a post method. It is a post method. Assume you sent a get. Assume you set get. Let's see here, get, send the get. What happened? See here, method not allowed. What is the meaning of method not allowed? 405 method not allowed. So that means what server is saying? In reality, it is post. In reality, it is post. But you sent, in place of post, you sent get. Server level, it is implemented as post. But you sent it as a get URI. So that's why what server is saying, hey client, I will accept only post request, but you sent get. So that's why method not allowed. So that means whose mistake? Who is making mistakes in this case? Client. So that means server application pointing finger to client side. Hey client, I am expecting post, but you sent get. That's why method not allowed. Point number one. Now, what body point of view also, what server is saying is the moment you missed the email ID. Now what server application is doing, see here, okay, get post only I will send this time, post but missing email ID. Now see bad request, bad request, 400 bad request. So why bad request? Again server telling to the client, hey server, sorry, hey client application, I'm ready to take your request, but please provide all the valid fields. Then only I'll consider your request and I'll process for next step. If you are not given the valid request, I will not accept your request. So it's a bad request. Why it is a bad request? Email ID is missing. So that means whose mistake it is? Who is making the mistake? Again client only. Again client. So that means in a request level, whenever client sending invalid data, invalid headers, invalid HTTP methods, anything client made any invalid things, then server, I mean, in the API implementation level, we have to utilize 400 series. So in a simple point of view, what I can say is to represent client mistakes, we have to use 400 series. We have to use 400 series. To represent client things, we have to use 400 series. So the moment you are using 400 series in the API level means what? So for example, assume mm, some reason. So you can send 400 from here also. Some reason, assume email ID or whatever it is. Some point of time you can use 400 series. See what are the things available. First of all, 400 bad request. Sorry, 400 bad request. Okay, this is useful one. 400 bad request. This is useful one. And second one is 401 unauthorized. That you will get in the security level, guys. Okay, when you are using the security module, you will get this unauthorized point of view. 401 unauthorized. That means unauthorized. When you given wrong passwords and you are trying to access something else, I think I'm not sure whether you will get it or not here. I'll try. real something. Sometimes you will see that unauthorized security level. I will show you security module level. Simply see, you are trying to access a resource, but you don't have permissions for that. See here 401. Yeah. Somewhere I shown you. It's gone. It's gone. Okay. You observed or not? Somewhere it got 401 unauthorized. So that means without login, you are trying to do some operations. That's why they are saying like unauthorized point of view or whatever it is. 301. No. Yeah. See here. I don't know how to stop this. It gone again. But somewhere you saw 401 it in the scrolling. I don't know how to stop it. That's out. It's all unauthorized point of view. So that means you are the unauthorized person to do that activity or to access that API point of view. Then you will say like unauthorized. You have to return like, hey client, you are sending unauthorized request. So you will see this. These are all things in our real life also, guys. Whether you are knows or not, when you are attending, when you are going to any government offices and all, or any say airports and all, they will say like some restricted areas will be there. So that means that area you can't access it unauthorized. You are the unauthorized person. For that, some authorized persons will be there. So that is how you will have right. So same thing here also. Whenever security point of view, we will use that header. That's what they are saying. When authentication is required, that means without authenticated, you are trying to access something. Then they will select your unauthorized point of view. Okay, unauthenticated, nothing but unauthenticated. At that time, you will utilize that. Payment required, very rare case. Forbidden, also related to similar to security point of view, you can use it. You can denying the access. 404 not found, we discussed. See, 405 method not allowed. Right now we saw, right? What 405 is saying? It's all about not allowed. You are already saw that. Instead of get, you are sending the post request. What you are getting? Method type not allowed. So that means it's all related to HTTP methods. That point is a request method is not supported for the requested resources. For example, if it is a get, but you are sending post. So that in such scenarios, post or put, then it will not allow that scenarios. Yeah, this is all about 400 series. But out of that also, I told you, right? 400 bad request mostly we will use. 401 unauthorized in the security layer level. 404 not found we will use. But remaining very rare case. Remaining and all, it's all you just explore it. You will understand simply. Payload is too large. What is the meaning of payload is too large, guys? That means what it is trying to say is the request payload what you sent is out of the range size. Assume you sent 1000 lines of payload. So like that, then it will say like payload is very lengthy payload, something like that. It can't handle. Assume you sent 1 lakh lines of the payload. Sometimes it may not handle it. then you will say like, sorry man, you given very long payload like that. URI is too long. That means what is the URI is too long? Assume you created an URI with this length. You felt like I can give a big line as a URI. So maybe it will handle up to 1000 characters or 2000 characters. I'm not sure exact size, but I'm just telling you. On an average, assume it is handling only for 100 characters overall or 200 characters. But you given 5000 characters as a URI in the by using that path variables, path parameters point of view, you given lot of lengthy URI. Then what will happen if you given 5000 characters in the URI itself? Then HTTP protocol will verify and it will say like, hey man, are you I mean, you given very length URI, so I can't handle it. See, right now I given very within the range only. That's why you got 404 not found. But one fine day if you given very length one, then it will you will get something like that is what you will get very length one. So that scenarios you will get it bad request or whatever it is. So that kind of scenarios. Unsupported media type. Yeah, this I will prove you in the XML level. Okay, this I will prove you in the XML level because what is the point of it is I'll note it down. We will prove it in the XML. So I need to cover one example with XML body also. Let me make a note. Simple, you can understand what is an unsupported media type. See, in this case, if you observe or not, yeah, if you see here, actually this REST service is expecting, even if you go here, body, yeah, it is expecting email, I mean JSON format. Okay, cool, right? But I'm sending in the XML format point of view. I'm giving content type as XML. Okay, let's do one thing. I'll select from here. I'll keep content, right? So let's see here, body I'm selecting as XML. But actually REST service is supporting what data format? JSON format. But you given as XML. So send the request. What it is saying? Unsupported media type. So what actual REST service is expecting content type as JSON. If you see here, what is the JSON content type went XML. Now what server application is doing, whenever you send a request, it is checking what content type this request came. It came with XML, but it is supporting only JSON. That's why it is saying, hey client, I'm supporting only JSON, but you given me XML format. So that's why unsupported media type. I can't support your media. I can't support your body type. Send me only in the JSON format. Now client realized the mistake. Oh, okay, let me send it as a JSON. Now send it. Now see it is accepted. So that scenarios 415 you have to return like that. So this is how 400 series is more important because definitely client will do a lot of mistakes. So to represent all client mistakes, we have a lot of things. Okay, so 400 series is a big series, but at least remember 4 to 5 which are being used on daily basis. No need to remember all or no need to by heart everything. Even I don't know. Okay, but at least remember 404 not found, 401 unauthorized, and this one 405 method not allowed, 415 unsupported media type. These are all common things. So whatever common things, I noted down here. At least remember these things. Okay, so similarly 500 series. 500 series is nothing but I'll continue this tomorrow, guys. We are just go beyond the time, right? So 500 series I'll continue tomorrow, and I'll take one final example again tomorrow uh, with respect to response entity point of view. By covering 400 and series, 400 series, as well as 500 series point of view. I'll cover one example tomorrow. So with that, we are done with HTTP status codes. Okay, so I'll take one example tomorrow, response entity point of view, 400 and 500 series. And what exactly the 500 series, I'll explain you tomorrow. Okay, it's all server side mistakes. 400 series talking about client side mistakes. 500 series will talk about all server side mistakes. So anyway, I'll give you some of real time scenarios. I'll show you something tomorrow. Okay, so continuation to this we will have tomorrow. I think first half an hour it will take. After that, we will see a concept of HTTP headers. HTTP headers we will discuss. You need to unlock your iPhone first. Which one? Yeah, that's all for today. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Yeah, you can see, sorry, headers. I thought of showing you headers, right? See guys, this is how front end team will do. If you see here, what is this? They are sending post request in the JSON format and they are giving payload. Okay, this payload, first name, last name. It's all React coding. Okay, React JS application. Now what happened? The moment they received the response in the JSON format, what they are checking? See here, status code 200 means success. If status code 500 means error. Yes, server side errors. I'll explain what is 500. But what you have to understand here, status codes. So if you are not returning proper status codes, then client applications cannot integrate application they will face a lot of issues. They can't figure out which is an error, which is a success, which is a success scenario, which is a valid scenario, which is an invalid scenario. They can't figure it out. So that's why writing the status codes are more important. See here 200, 500 series. So when user is added successfully, they will display in some green color. If something they got error, they are displaying in the red color like that. Set form state based on this and all, they will do that. So that's why status codes are more important everywhere. Okay. So realize how much important is and just practice it. So we will see tomorrow pending one and as well as we will continue with HTTP headers. What is a headers and all we will try to understand. Okay. That's all. Yeah. We will connect on tomorrow.